Okay, so I'm out in the shop today. I'm doing a little bit of gunsmithing on my Carcano. I got this clamped in the vise right now with my jaws. These are only $5 or $6. If you do any work on firearms and you don't already have a set of these, you need to go get yourself a set. I bought this at a local shop about a year ago. I've had it out 2 or 3 times. I've shot some cast bullets through it. It shoots really nice, but there's a problem with the bolt, or I thought it was the bolt. Forward locking lug, or the locking lug, there's no rear locking lugs on these, hits the rear receiver ring, and you actually have to hold down on the bolt a little bit for it to retract far enough to pick up a cartridge. See how loose that is? So it wasn't until this morning I was playing with it that I figured out what the problem is. Nothing to do with the bolt. What I found out is if I apply pressure on the bolt here, it works. So, after some measurements and a few other things, I found out, I'll spin this a little bit, and you should be able to tell there. If you look real close, you can tell this is wider in the back than it is in the front. At some point, it looks like this rifle was hit, and you can see a mark right here, another one here. I don't know how, I don't know what happened, but this rear receiver ring is bent. Now I had this at the gunsmith this morning. I was talking to him about it, and he inspected everything. There is a small crack right in here, and it's about that long. He said not to worry about that. I told him I was going to try and straighten it out, and we went over what we were planning to do. The first thing I'm going to do is find the end of that crack, and I'm going to drill a stop hole so it can't crack any further. While drilling that hole, that'll tell me if this is hard or if it's soft. And if it's soft, I'll be able to bend it back. If not, I'll have to heat it. If I have to heat it, he agreed that wrapping the forward receiver ring in a rag and keeping it wet will keep it cool. And once I'm done, I'm going to bring it back to him. He's going to test it out and make sure everything's fine. So, right now, we're going to tear this down. I'll show you how to get these Carcanos apart. There's not much to them. Start by moving the camera back a little bit. Okay, so we want to pull the bolt out. It's pretty simple. Pull it all the way back, pull the trigger, that'll come out. The beauty about these rubber jaws, loosen it up, we can spin that right around. And there's 2 flat screws right here. Now I keep this little kit here in my range box. It's just a little tiny multi-driver and a bunch of different bits from numerous kits, and I've kind of cherry picked them. I got a couple nice big flat bits. That one's a little too big. Now this rifle has been already cut up by someone. You can see here how they filled. I think this was an M38 with the bayonet that folded into the stock, and they filled that with something. It's hard to tell. I'm not sure if that's wood or if it's a wood filler. Doesn't look too bad anyway. Just a little sporter. I like my sporters. So we'll pull these 2 screws out. Pull the entire magazine well and trigger guard off. Pull the stock off. going to try and show you that crack. I don't know how well it's going to show up, but it's right at the bottom of the groove there. Very tiny. If you look at that straight on from the end, you can see how this side is bent. So we'll drill that little stop hole first, I guess, and then that'll tell us how hard the barrel is. I'll get this geared up and get right back to you. Alright, so the crack isn't even visible on the outside, so I'm going to go in here about just past where the crack is. This is a 1/8 bit, and we'll drill right through there. This way the crack can't travel any further. And there we have one stop hole. And that stuff wasn't very hard at all, so I think this is going to go alright. I'm going to first try tapping it with a non-marring hammer, and then I will move on to other means if necessary. Okay, so I got this clamped right in the vise. I got no jaws on it this time. There's a small flat spot back here under the stock that I'm clamped onto. Non-marring hammer. Just give this some gentle taps and see what happens. Seems like that's doing it. Well, that's pretty good. I can feel it just barely nicking the back there, but it's not catching. Even if I hold up on the bolt, it's not. I'm going to give that a couple more taps. I'm going to do it with the bolt in there, so I don't go too far. This is pretty dry. Well, I'm happy with that. The crack doesn't seem to have gone anywheres. I have that hole there now just in case in the future something happens. I'm just going to grab my calipers and measure this and see just how close I am. And then before I reassemble it, these little marks, I'm just going to take the file and kind of round them off. Okay, so I'm just going to measure the front, zero the calipers, measure the back, see what the difference is. So it looks like it's within 2 or 3 thou. I didn't think I'd get it that good after several tries, alone on the first one, so I'm not going to touch that anymore. Now, there's a burr here. There's a few burrs on it. I don't know what happened to this. I don't know if it was dropped or what, but I'm just going to file those down. I don't have the best files on the go here, but it'll work. Okay, that feels pretty smooth. I got a little piece of emery cloth here. I'm just gonna... A straight edge file will always give you a flat line. If you take a piece of sandpaper or something on your hand, it'll give you a nice rounded edge. Now, I'm not trying to make these disappear so no one will ever see them. I'm just trying to round them off so they're not sharp. They'll blend in a little better. There we go. I'm going to hit that with a little bit of acetone and then some cold blue and some oil. The great thing about acetone as a degreaser is that it evaporates on its own, so you don't have to degrease the degreaser. I'll just give that a few seconds to dry, and it'll dry pretty friggin' quick. That should be good enough. We'll hit that with some cold blue here. Okay, that will be sufficient. Get some rim oil. Rub it in. Okay, so to reassemble, just opposite of how we took her apart. Remember, the long bolt went in the front. Make that the back. Long bolt in the back, short bolt in the front. Check function again. Works fine. And that stall pole I drilled is out of sight. So, thanks for watching, guys. Hope this helped someone. And if you got any questions, feel free to ask.